Hey guys, Fight Mike here, back with another video. Today we're going to go through the UFC 321 card that should be in October in Abu Dhabi. I'll be putting fights on the card that are actually available and that aren't too expensive. The card and actually the UFC could put these on without breaking the bank. It's not going to be some UFC 300 looking card, but it should be good. I want to put some fights together that everyone wants to see and fights that should have already been made or will be made for this event. I'm not going to just throw on some that are likely not going to be made for this. So jumping in for the first matchup, we've got Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira. I think that this has to be on this card. There's not really any other cards before this, especially that would be actually good for a main event for this. Ankalaev wanted to fight earlier. He wanted to fight in International Fight Week, but Pereira was not ready for that, so he'll probably be fighting in October. If you look at the events before, we've got like United Center. We have September, which could be in Australia. We have what are the other cards? We have Louisiana, and then we have International Fight Week. None of those scream Magomed Ankalaev main event, but Abu Dhabi definitely does. Um, this is probably a good time for Pereira as well because it gives enough time for him to recover from all his injuries, change his game plan, and this will likely be made. I think any other events like the Islam versus JDM or Volk versus Evloev will probably be either side of this card. I don't think that this will be. I don't think either of those matchups will be an Abu Dhabi main event card. But moving on to the co-main, we've got Tom Aspinall versus Zero Gun. I know some people are going to be unhappy with this, saying, "Oh, come on, man, you got to put John Jones in there. You got to put Tom Aspinall versus John Jones in MSG." That won't happen. I wanted to put fights that will maybe actually happen on this card. I didn't want to just throw on some fantasy fights, but I know everyone wants to see that John Jones fight, but it's literally never going to happen. So we can let go of the pipe dream. It's not happening. We need to find new matchups for Tom Aspinall, and we need to build the hype around this guy because he's only like 30 or 31, and he's getting all these finishes, but then he's been out for so long. We need to capitalize on this hype like they were trying to with Hamza when he entered the UFC. Um, I know that there's a Paris fight night later in the year, but this is not a fight night worthy event. This is definitely a pay-per-view event. And if Aspinall does win this, he should get a pay-per-view headliner. I wouldn't put him on a pay-per-view headliner yet, just because we've got enough matchups to headline pay-per-views for, and I want him to build a little bit more of his star power before people rule him off to be this non-star. So I think if he wins this, he should get a London pay-per-view main event headliner. And the other good thing about this fight being in Abu Dhabi is they're both European fighters, so there's not one guy that has a much further flight than the other. So it should be a good journey and an easy journey for both, and a lot of the fans will be able to travel from both France and the UK to make it to the Abu Dhabi event. And I actually think that, to be honest, if Aspinall isn't going to fight John Jones, I do think that Dana's going to put this on this event. I don't think that he would put this on like the November or December events, just because I think they'll have the extra funding from Turkey Al Sheikh for this one, so they will be able to put on a double title fight. Um, Moving on to the feature fight, though, we've got Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje. Really happy with this matchup. I hope it does get made. I know that Paddy Pimblett has been asking for this one. And for this location as well, he's been asking for all of this, and they do seem to give Pimblett what he wants, so I think this will probably happen. It gives Gaethje enough time to recover from his injuries, and know he's older than Pimblett, so he did need that extra month. Um, and neither of these guys want to fight Arman. And Arman even then wants to fight before Abu Dhabi so he can stay on the same sort of schedule as the champion. Um, so yeah, I think that this timeline-wise works pretty well. And some people want to see this over 5. I personally would rather it over 3. I think that if they've got two title fights on the card already, this would be a perfect feature fight that we get super excited for the title fights for. Um, this could be overstacking it, but since it's in Abu Dhabi, I think that they can afford 3 really good fights, 3 expensive fights as well. And especially if they're putting this only over 3, they don't have to pay these guys the extra 25 or 50,000 each, or whatever their contractual agreement is for those 3 round to 5 round changes. But the other thing that this fight's really good for is that whoever wins can be denied a title shot from Dana. I know if Pimblett wins, he's not really going to get denied the title shot, but Gaethje doesn't necessarily deserve it, and he doesn't deserve it after a Pimblett win, especially over someone like Arman who's still in the division. So this could be a good opportunity for the winner to sort of get shut down by Dana about getting a title shot. Moving on to the fourth fight up, though, we have Jeff Neal versus MVP. I think timing wise, this is probably the perfect fight. Initially, I did really want MVP versus Covington, but we can accept that that's likely never going to happen. Um, I also don't know if many people within the top 15 rankings are even accepting an MVP fight. He's a tough fight for anyone, his range and distance is difficult, but I think Jeff Neal's the type of G that would literally just take any fight, and I think that he's not scared of MVP. I think he thinks his striking's just as good as MVP's, and I think he's been dealt a lot of really difficult matchups, and I think he'll be able to take, I think he'll at least take this fight. MVP fought in Abu Dhabi in February as well, so we'll have much the same audience there. And I could see him being a star over there as well. He seems to be a very well-spoken guy. He's very polite and kind, and he seems just to have that sort of Abu Dhabi vibe. So I think he'll be a good guy to have in Abu Dhabi twice this year, sort of racking up the same fan base. But I think he wouldn't mind as well. He's coming from England like Paddy Pimblett, so I think it's an easy flight for him. Actually, I've got three English guys on this. That might not work, but I think that they can still put this fight on. I don't think that this is the most expensive fight. It's probably not a cheap one. They're probably spending upwards of $400,000 for this fight, but I think this is bringing some pay-per-view sales to this. Um, the other thing about this is that Neal will force a good fight out of MVP. A lot of these guys are trying to play the striking matchup, or they're trying to wrestle with MVP. And I don't think that Dana wants to give MVP another guy that's not going to have a fun fight with him. Sharaputdin Magomedov just ran backwards. He has sort of like a runaway type of fight where you just pitter-patter shots, leg kicks. That sort of style is not going to be fun with MVP. Whereas a pressure boxer like Jeff Neal, that will bring out a good fight. Um, Jeff Neal also pulled out of 314 with an undisclosed injury. So I think he should be ready 6 months later. He might not be, but I think that this would be good timing for him. Moving on though to the opener of the main card, we have Volkan Ozdemir versus Azamat Mirzakhanov. I know Mirzakhanov's fighting this weekend, but he's fighting Brenson Ribeiro, who's outside of the rankings, and I don't rate him that highly. I think he will get a round 1 or 2 KO, and that still gives him 12 weeks to get ready for Volkan. Um, 12 or so, maybe a bit more actually. Sorry, I'm just doing the maths in my head. June, July, August, September, October. So 5 months from now is when that main event would be. So he's still got plenty of time to get ready for it. Matchmaking wise, this is perfect. I think Volkan's sitting in a number 8 spot, and I think after Mirzakhanov's win, he'll probably stay the same position around 13. And I think Mirzakhanov definitely deserves a like top 10 ranked matchup. Um, Ozdemir hasn't fought since November, since his loss against Carlos Olberg, and I think that's because they've probably been throwing him some unranked looking matchups that he probably does not want. But after Mirzakhanov's got a win, he's going to have a little bit better of a name. And location wise, this works, and most of the top 9 to 15 light heavyweights already matched up anyway, so if Volkan wants someone who's ranked, he needs this matchup. Anyone ranked above him, I doubt the UFC will give him. So I think they'll make him defend his spot, and I think Azamat is a good fighter to defend the shot against. I know Ozdemir will want someone who's not a wrestler, so I think that this is a good fight for him. Stylistically as well, this is a really good matchup for the fans. Both of these guys love their boxing, especially up in tight, close to the clinch. Mirzakhanov likes to fight. He's got those fast hands. He's a short guy, and I think that this would be unlikely to be a boring fight. You'd always get a good boxing matchup out of them. It's also this matchup where it's whoever lands their big power shot, they're going to win the fight. Sort of, I think this one will end in the first or second round, and that can kind of get you ready for the rest of the card being Jeff Neal and MVP. I wouldn't have thrown Jeff Neal and MVP in the opening of the main card because there's a chance that MVP just styles on him. So let's throw in a 100% KO likelihood with Ozdemir and Mirzakhanov opening up the main card. But going to the not the feature fight, but the main event of the prelims. We've got Abu Smagomedov versus Azamat Mirzakhanov. On paper, this doesn't make much sense, but let me explain it and you'll get why I've put this fight together. I'm not giving Abu Smagomedov a ranked opponent. He looked horrendous against Michel Pereira. Michel Pereira, I've always thought is terrible. So he is not getting a ranked matchup. I'm not giving him anyone who's good because he's going to lose to them. And the other thing is that you may say that there's some other guys on like 3 fight winning streaks in the welterweight middleweight division, but they're all matched up. Tell me another opponent outside of the rankings that deserves a shot in the rankings that's not matched up. They're all matched up. So I had to sort of go out on a limb here matching up this one, but I think putting Azamat in this one would be amazing because he's riding a good win streak, not necessarily just inside the UFC. He's only got 2 UFC wins, but he's running a good win streak, and they're both somewhat wrestlers. They do like to wrestle, so the scramble's going to be really nice, and we can boot one of these wrestlers out of the top 15. Um, and we can see if Bekaev has got good enough cardio, because realistically, if you look at the matchup, he's really good on the ground, and Abus has absolutely no cardio. So if he has decent cardio and good defense in the first round, he realistically probably will win this fight if it gets made. As I said, Bekaev's on an 8 fight winning streak, and I think he doesn't necessarily deserve a shot in the rankings more than some people, but I would be happy if he got one. He's fun on the mic. He's a good personality for the UFC. He seems like a good guy. He seems like a fun guy. I think he'll talk some smack leading up to some of the fights, and I think he's just a good marketable guy who gets finishes as well. This is the perfect fight to put on. Dana, book it. Come on. Next up, we've got Gaziev versus Parkin. We've got the Blob versus Blob matchup. I'm really happy with this fight. They both fought earlier in the year. This is good timing-wise. Shamil got a KO in February on the Abu Dhabi card, and then I think it was March that the London fight night was, where Mick Parkin lost a 29-28 decision to Marcin Tybura. I think that this is a perfect fight, like, to see where Gaziev and Parkin are, to see who's the blob that can be in the rankings and who's the fraud, Dontel Mays-like fraud, Dontel Mays type blob, sorry. And I think that if they made this fight, we could see round or two of good exchanges, maybe a finish, and we could kind of kick whoever loses out of the rankings. I'm not going to pretend like Mick Parkin or Gaziev are amazing, but this would be a fun fight. We're putting sort of like a mirror stylistic matchup together. They've both been known to gas out. They both are quite well-rounded heavyweights, so I think they should book it. And the other thing is if Gaziev wins this fight, I want to see him booked against Tybura, who just beat Mick Parkin, because Tybura is sort of like that blob final boss. So I think that they should book this fight, make it for the second fight on the prelims. I would never put this on a main card of even a fight night because it'll kill the vibe of the card. But this is like kind of a good spot if you have some sort of like maybe like a Asu Almabayev or a Temirov, whoever wins the Asim Almabayev versus Temirov before this fight, or even just an unranked matchup that is somewhat fun before this. You can kind of use this as your drinks break or your meal break within the card. They don't really put many women's fights or any women's fights in the Abu Dhabi or Saudi Arabia cards. So we got to get some sort of piss break on the card, and that can be Gaziev versus Parkin. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll pull up stumps on the video there. If you want to see me do the fight night in Shanghai or Paris, I'm more than happy to. I'd love to match up those fight nights, sorry. And if you want me to match up the 319, 322, or 323 pay-per-views this year, more than happy to. Let me know down in the comments section below. Like and subscribe. Let me know what you think, and I'll catch you in the next video, guys. Peace.